There's a moment every December when the world finally exhales. For me, it usually happens right after I put out my favorite winter mug and take the first deep breath of the season. The lights glow a little softer, the books on my shelf seem to lean toward me waiting, and I remember why winter reading feels like a ritual. This year, the ritual came wrapped in something extra special. The 2025 Bibliophile Advent Calendar. 25 days of bookish prompts, reflections, and tiny invitations to remember why reading is such a grounding, joyful part of life. So today, I'm inviting you to join me for a cozy, winter-lit journey through all 25 days. The books I chose, the stories behind them, and why each one felt like the perfect match for its prompt. So settle in, warm your hands on your favorite mug, and let's begin. For day one, the best book I read this year was The Deal by Al Kennedy. It begins like a classic college rom-com, a hockey star and a music major thrown together by academic necessity. But quickly it has revealed itself to be something deeper. Hannah is brilliant, guarded, and determined to keep her past trauma from defining her future. Garrett is charming, confident, and hiding the emotional bruises of a complicated home life. Their deal, tutoring in exchange for fake dating, becomes the scaffolding for a relationship built on trust, vulnerability, and genuine connection. Kennedy balances humor with emotional weight, allowing both characters to grow in ways that feel earned. The banter is sharp, the chemistry electric, and the emotional beats land with surprising tenderness. It's a romance that reflects its characters' wounds while still letting them be young, hopeful, and messy. This book came to me through my book bestie, and if you have one of those, you know their recommendations hit different. I remember texting her at midnight saying, "Oh my god, I get it." I read most of it curled up under a blanket with a cup of hot chocolate, and it felt like the perfect blend of comfort and catharsis. It set the tone for the whole Advent calendar. Stories that surprise you, comfort you, and remind you why you love reading. Day 2 was about book club darlings, and I read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Set in the meticulously planned suburb of Shaker Heights, Little Fires Everywhere explores the collision of two families, the picture-perfect Richardsons and the enigmatic mother-daughter duo of Mia and Pearl. Elena Richardson believes in rules, structures, and doing everything the right way, while Mia is an artist with a mysterious past who believes in following instinct and heart. Their worlds intertwine when Pearl becomes close to the Richardson children, and a local custody battle forces the entire community to confront uncomfortable truths about privilege, identity, and motherhood. Ng's writing is sharp, empathetic, and layered. Every character is flawed, every choice complicated, and every chapter deepens the emotional stakes. It's the kind of novel that makes you question your own assumptions, and then question why you had them in the first place. This was a Reese's Book Club pick, and also my library's One Book, One Town selection this year, which meant that everyone was reading it simultaneously. I remember standing in line at the grocery store hearing people debate Elena's choices like she was a real neighbor. That's the power of a book club, darling. It becomes communal. It becomes conversation. For day 3's modern romances, I picked XOXO by Axio. Jenny is a talented cellist with big dreams who meets Jay Woo, a charming stranger, sweeps her off into a spontaneous night of adventure. When he disappears, she assumes it was a fleeting spark, until she transfers to an elite arts academy in Seoul and discovers he's a K-pop idol. Suddenly, Jenny is thrust into a world of fame, secrecy, and intense expectations. What makes this book shine is how it balances the sweetness of first love with the pressures of ambition. Jenny and Jae-woo's connection is tender and earnest, but the story never forgets that they were young people trying to figure out who they are and what they want. The setting goes from bustling Seoul streets to quiet practice rooms and adds a layer of atmosphere that makes the romance feel cinematic. I read this one curled up in my bed with hot chocolate, and I swear the book sparkled. It's the kind of romance that makes you smile into your mug. It felt like watching a K-drama through frosted windows. Warm, sweet, and exactly what my December heart needed. On day 4 of Banned Books, I picked every millennial's favorite series and read Quidditch Through the Ages by J.K. Rowling. This whimsical companion book reads like a historical guide to the wizarding world's favorite sport. It covers everything from broomstick evolution to famous teams to bizarre rule changes over the centuries. It's clever, playful, and full of the kind of world-building details that make the Harry Potter universe feel so lived in. It's also a reminder of how fictional worlds can feel real enough to study. The tone is light, the humor dry, and the lore surprisingly rich for a book that could have easily been a throwaway novelty. I picked this one because it's such a harmless, joyful little book, and yet it's been swept into the broader bands of Wizarding World. They remind me that sometimes the things we love get caught in storms they never created, and sometimes revisiting something lighthearted is exactly what we might need. Plus, it made me want to curl up and rewatch the movies with a good bowl of popcorn. For day 5, a book that made me cry, I read Sickened by Julie Gregory as part of our book club this year. This memoir is a raw, unflinching account of growing up under a mother with Munchausen by proxy. Gregory writes with clarity and coverage, detailing the manipulation, medical abuse, and psychological trauma she endured. Her storytelling is vivid and haunting, but also deeply human. She never loses sight of the child she was or the strength she found. This book is a difficult read, but it's also a testament to survival. Gregory's voice is steady and brave, guiding readers through the darkest parts of her childhood with honesty and resilience. Honestly, I was a mess when reading this. The kind of crying where you have to put the book down and take a deep breath. I remember sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold because I couldn't look away. It's a hard read, but an important one. For day 6 of my favorite bookstore, I obviously picked An Unlikely Story. It's right down the street, and it's always where I end up. It isn't just a bookstore, it's a community hub, a creative space, and a cozy refuge for readers. The shelves are curated with care, the staff is always warm and knowledgeable, and the atmosphere feels like stepping into a story. They host events, book clubs, and family-friendly activities that make reading feel like a communal experience. It's the kind of place where you can lose an afternoon wandering the aisles, discovering new favorites, and chatting with fellow book lovers. This bookstore is practically an extension of my living room. It's right down the street. They host incredible events, and they've done so much for our community. I've spent afternoons browsing, writing, and just people watching. It's the kind of place where stories live in the walls, and where you always leave with one more book than you had planned. Day 7 of picture books led me to The Gato Taco by Dee Dee Dragon. It's a colorful, playful picture book about a mischievous cat who looks surprisingly like one of mine. The illustrations are bright and expressive, and the story has that perfect blend of silliness and charm that makes kids giggle and adults smile. It's the kind of book that invites dramatic reading with voices, sound effects, and the whole performance. It's also a celebration of the chaos and joy that pets can bring into our lives, wrapped in a story that's easy to love. My whole family ended up doing a dramatic reading of this one for our cat, who sat there looking deeply unimpressed. It was ridiculous and perfect, and honestly, any book that brings your family together for a spontaneous performance deserves a spot in your lineup. For day 8, we had the theme of cooking. For me, that's best done with a copy of Scrumptious by Christy Denny, a cookbook full of fast, family-friendly meals that actually work. Denny's recipes are approachable, comforting, and consistently delicious, the kind of dishes that become weeknight staples. The photos are inviting, the instructions clear, and the flavors always hit the spot. What I love most is how practical these recipes are. They're not trying to impress you with obscure ingredients or complicated techniques. They're just good, solid meals that make your kitchen smell amazing. I've made so many recipes from this book that it's starting to look well loved. Splatters on the pages and notes in the margins. Every recipe has been a hit, and December is always peak comfort food season. This cookbook makes you feel like a friend is sitting right next to you in your kitchen. For day 9, my favorite protagonist from this year was Rosie in Not in My Book by Katie Holt. Rosie is a nerdy writer with a steel spine, navigating love, ambition, and self-worth. She's witty, determined, and deeply relatable, the kind of heroine who feels like a friend. Her journey is messy, heartfelt, and full of moments that make you want to cheer for her. The book explores creativity, vulnerability, and the courage it takes to pursue your dreams. Rosie's voice is warm and funny, and her growth feels authentic. She reminds me of a version of myself I root for, the one who knows what she wants and goes after it, even when it could be messy. Reading her story felt like sitting across from a friend in a cafe, cheering her on with every chapter. Day 10 was for Myths Retold, which is one I tend to struggle with, so I tried Medusa by Natalie Grunder, a reimagining of Medusa as misunderstood rather than monstrous. It explores themes of power, trauma, and reclaiming one's narrative, giving Medusa a voice that's long been denied. The writing is lyrical and haunting, and the story feels both ancient and somehow modern. This retelling digs into the emotional core of the myth, examining how stories shape our understanding of women, power, and fear. It's a reclamation, fierce, tender, and unforgettable. I devoured it in a single day. There's something cathartic about watching a woman reclaim her story, especially in winter when everything feels like a quiet reset. It felt like lighting a candle in a dark room. Day 11 was reading around the world, so I picked A Perfect Holiday Romance, I'll Be Home for Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. A cozy UK-set holiday romance full of charm, warmth, and second chances. Bayliss blends humor with heartfelt moments, creating a story that feels like a Hallmark movie, but with a little more depth. The setting, a snowy Scottish streets, festive markets, and cozy pubs, add a layer of atmosphere that make the romance feel magical. The characters are lovable, the conflicts grounded, and the ending satisfying without being predictable. I always love a good Jenny Bayliss story, and reading a Christmas romance set abroad felt like a mini vacation. It made me want to book a flight, buy a wool coat, and wander through these snowy Scottish village. Day 12 was a memoir, which I picked A Stolen Life by J.C. Dugard for book club this year. A powerful memoir about captivity, survival, and rebuilding. Dugard writes with honesty and strength, offering insight into resilience and healing. Her voice is steady and brave, guiding readers through her experience with clarity and courage. This book is heartbreaking, but it's also a testament to the human spirit. Dugard's journey is one of unimaginable hardship, but also of hope and recovery. This book broke my heart so many times, but then slowly put it back together. I remember reading it on a quiet Sunday morning, wrapped in a blanket, feeling both devastated and inspired. It's a reminder of the human capacity to endure and rebuild. Day 13 was your favorite animal character, and mine has and always will be from Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. It's a tender story of friendship, sacrifice, and the magic of words. Charlotte is a wise and loyal spider who helps save Wilbur the pig through creativity and love. The writing is gentle and timeless, and the themes resonate across generations. It's a story about kindness, loyalty, and the quiet ways we can make a difference. Charlotte's Web, both literal and metaphorical, is a testament to the power of connection. Anyone who doesn't say Charlotte for this prompt is clearly lying. She's iconic, she's loyal, she's everything. This book feels like childhood wrapped in a warm blanket. For day 14, the prompt was to read a middle grade book, so I went with the thrilling classic of the Gallagher Girls series by Allie Carter. It's about a spy school adventure full of friendship, secrets, and girl power. Cammie Morgan and her friends navigate missions, crushes, and growing up, all while training to be elite spies. The series is fun, fast-paced, and full of heart. What makes it special is how it balances action with emotional depth. The friendships are strong, the stakes are high, and the characters are relatable. I was obsessed with this series growing up. It was my gateway into YA, and revisiting it felt like opening a time capsule. Sometimes you need to reconnect with the books that helped to shape you. Day 15 was speculative fiction, which has never been one of my favorite genres, but Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card is the exception to this rule. A gifted child is trained to lead humanity in an interstellar war, raising questions about morality, manipulation, and the cost of leadership. Ender's journey is both thrilling and heartbreaking, and the story twists stay with you long after you've finished. This book explores themes of power, empathy, and the burden of expectation. It's a story that challenges readers to think deeply about the nature of conflict and the price of victory. I first read this at exactly the right age, old enough to grasp the themes, but young enough to still be blown away. It shaped how I think of sci-fi and storytelling. Day 16 was the best audiobook from your year, which for me was Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. It's a rom-com with mystery, Scottish charm, and a narrator who keeps you glued to your seat. It's witty, warm, and full of chemistry. The audiobook performance elevated the humor and tension beautifully. This story blends romance with intrigue, creating a listening experience that's both fun and engaging. It was a driveway moment audiobook. I often found myself sitting in the car in the parking lot at work because I just had to finish this chapter. It made my commute feel like a treat. Day 17 was my favorite book ever, which has to be 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult for as long as I can remember. A devastating exploration of a school shooting and its rippling effects on a community Foucault examines guilt, grief, and the complexity of human relationships with her signature empathy. The narrative is layered, emotional, and deeply thought-provoking. The book challenges readers to consider the factors that lead to tragedy and the ways communities heal or fail to. I read this in high school for a summer project, and it's stayed with me ever since. It's the book I've reread the most, and every time it hits differently. It's the kind of story that becomes a part of you. For day 18, the prompt was for historical fiction, which has always ever made me think of one book, Sarah's Key by Tatiana de Rosnay, a dual timeline story about the Heldevive Roundup and its lingering impact. The novel weaves past and present into a haunting narrative about memory, responsibility, and the stories we inherit. It's emotional, atmospheric, and beautifully written. The historic sections are heartbreaking, while the modern storyline explores the weight of uncovering painful truths. This book gutted me. I still think about it years later. It's the kind of story that lingers like a winter fog, heavy, quiet, and unforgettable. Day 19, the prompt was a book that changed your life. For me, that was Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews, which I know sounds really bad, but stick with me. It's a gothic tale of family secrets, trauma, and forbidden bonds. It's dark, dramatic, and unforgettable, the kind of book that leaves a mark on your soul. Andrews' writing is atmospheric and unsettling, and the story is impossible to forget. The book explores themes of innocence lost, the complexities of family, and the way trauma inspires identity. I first read this book at a very young age, maybe a little too young, but it was the first time I realized that books could be messy, complicated, and not at all like the fairy tales we're brought up on. It changed how I read and probably shaped my taste for dramatic, twisty stories. Day 20 was Fantasy, which for me is Blood and Chocolate by Annette Curtis Klaus. It's a moody, atmospheric coming-of-age story that blends paranormal fantasy with emotional turbulence of adolescence. Vivian is a werewolf caught between worlds, the wild, instinct-driven life of her pack, and the human world she longs to be a part of. When she falls for a human boy, she's forced to confront the parts of herself that she's tried to tame, the parts she's tried to hide, and the parts she's terrified to embrace. Klaus's writing is lush and sensory, full of moonlit forests, simmering tension, and the ache of wanting to belong. The book explores identity, desire, loyalty, and the messy, painful process of figuring out who you are when you don't fit neatly into any one place. It's darker than most YA fantasy of its era, but that's what makes it so unforgettable. It treats Vivian's emotional journey with seriousness and depth. But I beg you, please ignore the movie. The book is so much deeper, more emotional, and perfect for a moonlit winter walk. I remember reading it as a teen and feeling like I'd stumbled into a world that understood the intensity of being young and torn between versions of yourself. It's dramatic in the best way, the kind of book that makes you want to curl up with a candle and lean into your winter moodiness. Day 21, the prompt was about baking, which for me was Whiskey in a Teacup by Reese Witherspoon. Part cookbook, part lifestyle guide, Whiskey in a Teaspoon is Reese's love letter to Southern hospitality. The recipes range from cozy comfort foods to festive party dishes, all wrapped in Reese's signature charm. The book is filled with stories about her upbringing, traditions passed down through generations, and the rituals that make a house feel like a home. Beyond the recipes, Reese shares tips on entertaining, decorating, and creating warm, welcoming spaces. It's the kind of book that feels like sitting at a kitchen table with a friend who insists you take home leftovers and a handwritten recipe card. I love baking these recipes, and yes, I absolutely brag, oh, this is from Reese Witherspoon. It's become part of my hostess identity. There's something about flipping through this book in December, flour on the counter, something baking in the oven with the snow outside, that makes me feel like I'm starring in my own cozy holiday movie. Day 22 was Judging a Book by Its Cover, which clearly was going to be Street Cats and Where to Find Them by Jeff Bogle. This charming travel-style guide celebrates feline-friendly cities around the world, filled with adorable photos, quirky facts, and warm storytelling. It highlights the unique relationships different cultures have with their street cats. From bustling urban alleyways to quiet seaside towns, each section paints a vivid picture of the local feline residents and the humans who care for them. This book is part travelogue, part love letter to cats, and part cultural exploration. It's beautifully designed with a cover that practically begs to be picked up, bright, inviting, and full of personality. I picked it because the cover had a cat on it, and honestly, zero regrets. It was delightful, and it made me want to adopt 10 more. It also made me imagine myself wandering through the European streets in a cozy coat, befriending every cat I met along the way. A girl can dream, can't she? For day 23, the prompt was about a holiday book, which for me has always been Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. This enchanting collection gathers the letters Tolkien wrote to his children each Christmas, written in the voice of Father Christmas himself. The letters are full of whimsy, tales of mischievous polar bears, goblin attacks, and magical mishaps at the North Pole. The illustrations and handwritten notes make the book feel intimate, like you're peeking into a family tradition filled with imagination and love. Beyond the charm, the book captures the magic of storytelling as a gift, a reminder that the worlds we create for the people we love can become treasured memories. It's a celebration of wonder, creativity, and the joy of believing in something bigger than ourselves. This book feels like Christmas distilled into pages. It's pure magic, the kind that makes you believe again. I read it with a cup of hot cocoa with marshmallows and felt just like a kid, the kind of kid who still checks the sky on Christmas Eve just in case. It's the perfect December read. Day 24 was for mysteries and thrillers, which was a big genre for me this year, and one of the best I read personally was The Payback Girls by Alex Travis. A sharp, fast-paced YA mystery, The Payback Girls follows a group of teens who band together to seek justice after being wronged. What begins as a plan for revenge quickly spirals into something darker, forcing the girls to confront their own motivations, their friendships, and the consequences of their choices. The plot is twisty without being confusing, and the characters feel real, flawed, fierce, and deeply human. The book explores themes of power, anger, loyalty, and the ways young women navigate a world that often underestimates them. It's gripping, emotional, and impossible to put down once the pieces start falling into place. I read it in one sitting, wrapped in a blanket, ignoring my responsibilities. It was the perfect binge, the kind of book that keeps you turning pages long after you should be asleep. It also reminded me how satisfying it is to watch characters reclaim their power. Day 25 didn't have a prompt. It was a present for finishing, a lovely bookmark. So here we are, the final day, the soft glow of Christmas lights, the quiet hush of winter, the feeling that the world is wrapped in a warm blanket. While not tied to a specific book, it is tied to something special on day 25. The joy of reading, the comfort of stories, and the magic of sharing them. A huge thank you to Cozy Books Corner, the online shop where I bought this Advent calendar. It offered something truly magical, 25 days of joy, reflection, nostalgia, and discovery. Supporting small book businesses is one of my favorite holiday traditions, and this calendar reminded me why. They put so much heart into everything. This Advent calendar wasn't just a countdown. It was a reminder of why reading matters, why stories matter, why we return to them again and again, especially in the quiet glow of winter. Thank you for spending this journey with me. May your holidays be warm, your mugs be full, and your TBR always unmanageable. Until next time, this is Kristen, signing off from the Chapter Café.